All right, so recording is start. Hey folks, welcome to the November 5th SIG Windows community meeting. This is a recorded meeting which will be uploaded to YouTube's. So please adhere to the CNCF Code of Conduct, which basically translates to be nice and kind to everyone. All right, announcements. Announcement is as the same. Code freeze is coming up on November 8th. So I guess the main agenda today would be to make sure that all the PRs that we have open that we want to get into the next release is being discussed. Before that, I want to give new contributors a chance to speak up. But I don't see anyone that I haven't seen here before, so I'm going to move on. All right, Mark, we can talk about the PRs. Let's open this one first.
Yeah, I think look, the online is on the call. Let's see. I saw there was a little bit of a discussion around the owner's files. I think it makes sense to do the owner's files separately. Outside of that, is there any open comments? I didn't get a chance to look at this yesterday.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think that's the owner file is the latest one. Yeah, I sent another iteration because there is a merge conflict because of the Windows CPU one. There is a lint file, YAML file, something like that, and I already rebased and send a new one. So
Okay. Yeah, I think let's remove the updates to the owners from this pull request completely. I think that it should probably go in as a separate change because for a couple of reasons. One is like I don't want to have that hold up this PR. And another one is like the kind is I mean it's like updating that owners file isn't really touching the feature and stuff. But I think that one should be pretty minor. And then yeah, it does look like the CI is waiting for something.
Yeah, and I don't see the owner's file. Where is the owner's file?
Do I have a stale version of it?
Or am I looking at a stale version?
Look at all of the files changed.
there is no one. Okay, let me check my locally.
Could you click on the file tree right next to that? Yeah, the owner's files there.
Yeah,
Oh.
yes.
Oh, I see it now. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Mark. We should I think we should just make this a separate or is Sergey asking for this so that it's easy to get approval for this, like as part of this PR itself?
I think he's asking two things. I suggest just doing this. So, like part of the I think this came up because the Windows there's the Windows service folder and this change touched that service.go and there's no owners files in that directory or any of the directories above it, so it defaulted to requiring like somebody with Uber Kubernetes permissions in it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I still think let's just remove that separately and have those discussions separately because I feel like that's something that could merge after code freeze.
Yeah, Mark, I just wanted to make sure that we don't have to, that we won't be in a position where we have to wait for someone with like the Uber permissions to come and approve this PR.
Yeah. I think did Dims already approve it? Or no, I thought yeah, I was looking at I think like I think even still the owners somebody yeah, this is saying package owners needs approval. So that's Dims, Dawn, Liggett, Hawken, Clayton.
Not sure if it on the PR, but I pinged him on Slack, and he Dims told me that after a signal they get approval, and
Yeah.
he can approve. Yes.
Okay, yeah, Dims is usually like a good person
You
to
mean
ping if
James?
it needs.
Do you mean James or Dims? There's a okay.
Dims.
Yeah, I think, so Mark, I think we definitely need the owner's file. I don't know whether we need to figure out who from SIG Windows needs to be approvers.
Yeah,
Uh,
either that or I think I do see Sergey suggest just add signode for now and then get
Yeah.
that in and then we can update it separately. I
yeah,
think
so we can
either
remove, I think he mainly wants this. I think he just responded. So Yuan Lang, if you can just remove SIG Windows API reviewers from approvers, that I think will satisfy Sergey.
Okay, I
and I
will.
think that's mostly just housekeeping. I believe today we don't have separate. I think we probably just have one group for SIG Windows API reviewers. We don't have separate groups called out. But Sergey just wants to make sure that if we do have, like, if we add somebody as a reviewer, he he wants it to be explicit that that's a reviewer and not necessarily an approver. So
Yep,
I could see
exactly.
that.
Yep.
Either way, if Sergey's okay approving with some updates to add the signode folks there, that's okay with me. If not, I think we should just remove the owner's files and get move the discussions to a separate PR.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I think we're good with this. Let's move to the next one.
Yes, this is a pull request that I opened yesterday. That's follow on to the one that or to the big PR that James had. This is for the CPU and memory manager support for Windows. James had a big pull request that enabled, like, that wired up like topology manager and CPU manager and did a bunch of stuff for the advisor support for Windows that queries the node and gets the CPU information and NUMA node information. This is a follow-up PR that allows you to set a memory manager policy here. And
Okay.
it looks like somebody from Signode already reviewed. I think they added two questions, and James, I might ask you to comment on it. He asked why I'll double check the KEP, but I thought in the KEP we wanted to restrict people from scheduling the best effort policy on Linux, and he had a question mark for that check. And then he also, that's a valid comment, I'll do that. And then he also asked why we're wrapping the static policy. So I can add a comment to that saying, and that kind of makes sense. If you look at the best effort policy.go file, the KEP discussion, from my understanding, the KEP discussions are, well, from my understanding, on Windows, all of the logic that makes the static memory management policy effective works as is. And it's just that when we actually tell containerd in Windows to schedule a container to a specific node, we give it hints at where to place it relative to NUMA nodes that the topology manager and memory manager select. But the issue is that on Linux, they call that a static policy because they say, put this workload here so it's used by this NUMA node, and that gets enforced. On Windows, we say, put this workload here so it's close to these NUMA nodes, and Windows will take that as a suggestion, not as a fact. So because of that, the SIG node wanted to not allow Windows to use the static memory management policy because it wasn't a fact, it was a hint. But all of the logic that's in the static memory management policy still applies, and there's a whole bunch of unit tests for there. So I thought this was a better way rather than duplicating a bunch of code. So I can add some comments. The other thing is, if you look at the memorymanager.go file, we could probably just do some tricks where the command line argument that comes in, we want it to say best effort, but what we do is we actually use the static, the interface for static policy. I don't know if that would be more, I don't know if that would be better or not, so I'll ask Signode what they prefer, but I'll add a little bit more context to that. But either way, I wanted to avoid duplicating all of the code that's in the static effort go file, just because I fear that there's going to be code drift.
Yeah, that all sounds accurate. That's kind of where I was headed. I know that there's a little bit of, I'm not sure how it's going to be received, I guess. That's why I didn't include it in my initial PR, was just, I think now this gives us the opportunity to be able to discuss this here, and we at least have the CPU merged and we can go from there. But yeah, I mean, that essentially gives us what we want. It's just that the semantic meaning of it didn't quite match the semantic meaning of what it meant on Linux, and that's why there was so much pushback in the KEP initially. So
I forget exactly who reviewed the KEP. Was it
it's this Francisco person. Yeah he reviewed my PR, so he's the one pushing us, like he's the one that's helping us from the most from Signode. So
I'll try and link. I'll link to the KEP, and that I think that's just a typo there. I'll link to the KEP and say the KEP says we wanted to disallow static policy on Windows, and also we're introducing a new policy, and I believe we wanted to disallow that from running on Linux. And there's a couple of ways but the implementation for static policy is the exact code and logic that we want for Windows. So hopefully we can just resolve that.
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in there too.
Okay. Yeah, I can add a couple comments, and maybe tag you and say like, what do you think we should do here?
I figured we might get a little pushback here, so we'll see if we have enough reason to not duplicate a bunch of the code.
Maybe just better comments in that best effort go interface is where to go. But
yeah, I was about to say that, Mark. I think if you put like why we're doing this, or why you're doing this here, I think maybe they'll understand, and but
I wasn't even sure myself if I should just do that or if I should just have memory manager expect best effort policy on the command line and then instantiate the static one too. So I'm not surprised that there's some discussion.
Pushback. Okay.
Hopefully that's just something like we'll be able to resolve through some discussion. I don't think there's any contention.
Yeah, I'm hoping you'll be able to get this in by the 8th.
Do we know, like, I just want to, what's the impact of having, James, your changes merge if this doesn't merge? We're not going to have to, are we going to, I'm just curious because it is the week of code freeze. Like, hopefully we can get this merged. But
yeah, I had the same question in my mind. Like, what happens if this doesn't get in? Yours is already merged, James.
I think because yours is fully functional, the CPU manager is fully functional.
Yeah,
so it just stays.
I was wondering if anybody would push back on that as well. That's the way I see it. Like, these are all distinct parts of the distinct pieces of code that interop on their own, and so like the CPU manager is fully functional at this point. It's not like it requires the memory manager to do work. And so it's just, a partial implementation of the entire KEP, but it's a fully functional piece of it. So that was my intent there, was so that we can get something out so that we can make some progress, and this PR would be a little bit smaller to review as well.
Because I think we absolutely need the CRI changes to stay in there anyway. But yeah, I think we could argue that we should keep the CPU manager, and even if this doesn't merge, I'm hopeful that we can get this merged.
All right, looks like there's not much further to talk about this, right, Mark? Looks
Yeah,
like you're in good shape. Both these PRs look in good shape. So some action items for both you and Lang, and I think we should be good to go. And I think we should be canceling next week's meeting.
yes, I think we usually cancel it at KubeCon or during the week
All
of
right.
Cube.
All right,
So-
I'll cancel next week's meeting then.
Are there any ways to listen online for the KubeCon or
They used
we?
to.
They don't do that anymore, Mark. Like they don't do the. I think during the COVID times they did it for a couple of years, and now they've stopped. So you basically have to wait now for them to upload the YouTube videos.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
don't think they're doing live streaming anymore.
all of the talks get uploaded to the CNCF YouTube channel eventually, but I think it takes like 6 weeks. Can take up to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
In the past they used to do a hybrid where you could
Correct.
have like a very like a different ticket, and they had like a platform that had some social interaction things, and you could schedule like see the schedule and things. But as Arvind mentioned, I think they're phasing away from that, or did phase away from that.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
very cheap also. It would like you could buy the ticket for like $50 or something, and you could just watch it all online. But I think I'm guessing a lot of people took that option, and then they couldn't handle the because I remember trying to watch, like I think it was like Mark, you were talking, and I couldn't. There was like streaming issues and all kinds of stuff happening. So I think they finally just gave up on that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, folks, if nothing else, I'll stop the recording and I will see you all on Slack, and hopefully I'll see some of you next week at KubeCon. All right, bye, folks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for running the meeting too. Bye.